You go, baby. All right, guys, this is week 1 through 3 recap of my third bodybuilding prep. This is the road to my pro card. So without further ado, let's get into it. Week 1. So I officially started tracking my calories week 1. Started tracking my calories and my macros. Last year, before starting my prep, the last year, calm yourself. The last year that I've been why? Week 1 of my first my third bodybuilding prep, I just started tracking, right? So the year previous to me starting this journey for my third bodybuilding show, I was just intuitively eating. So I wasn't really tracking my calories. So basically what I mean by intuitively eating is that I see the food, I eat it, but I still have the awareness, the knowledge of what I'm eating. So I know what, for the most part, what 6 ounces of chicken look like. I know for the most part, how much, an 8-ounce glass of milk is. I know for the most part, how much of food I'm eating and how much, it equates calories wise and macros wise. But once you want to get really serious about your goals, especially for a bodybuilding prep, you need to lock in. I know there's some people that have tried in the past, some even pro people that have tried in the past to not track their calories. But if you really want the edge over the other competitors, if you really want to get that top 1 to 3 spot in your show, you need to lock in. There's no other better way to put it. A lot of people won't even get coaches. They'll get nutrition coaches to dial themselves in. They won't even get a coach for training. They'll get a coach separately for nutrition, and a separate coach for training, and a separate coach for even, maybe not a coach, but they'll have a doctor that will look over their blood work to make sure that they're healthy in all areas of their life. So because I wanted to lock in, I wanted to make sure that I can get that competitive edge by tracking all my calories, tracking my macros. So the last couple of weeks, again, this is a week 1 through 3 recap of my third bodybuilding show. I've been tracking every single thing that goes into my mouth. And again, for anyone who's watching this, if you want to really see results, you got to do it. And it's just a phase, like I wrote down here in my notes, if you want to save money, you need to know where that money is going, right? Or rather, you need to tell your money where it's going. So first you need to know where it's going, and then you need to tell your money where it's going. So if you want to save more, you got to be able to obviously budget, right? Same thing for macros, same thing for tracking your calories. You want to tell your calories where it's going and how you're going to utilize it. So if you want to be able to lose body fat, you need to know how much you need to eat. You need to know what your maintenance is. That means that you need to just simply, for the next month, I'd suggest just being aware of tracking every calorie that you eat, every typical food that you eat, whatever's a staple in your household, and then figure out if you're gaining or losing. If you're losing, then you found out that you're in a deficit. If you're gaining, that means that you're in a surplus. If you haven't gained any weight, because we're creatures of habit, we eat the same amount of food, the same types of food in a monthly basis, and you figured out that you haven't gained any weight or lost any weight, then you found your maintenance. And that's more or less how you do it. And then essentially you just want to go into a deficit if your goal is to lose body fat. So again, it's the same thing as budgeting, guys. If you want to see results, you need to track everything, just like you would track your finances. You want to track your calories. And then you have the freedom of intuitively eating. So like I said, the last year, I've been doing nothing but just being aware of how much protein I'm eating, being aware of how much carbs I'm eating, and making sure I don't overdo the fats. For me, it's pretty easy to overdo the fats, especially if you're cooking with a lot of olive oil, you're cooking with butter, your cheese, if you're a big dairy person. So my prerogative during intuitively phases of eating, I'll just make sure that I get my protein in and my carbs in, and I think about it. I think about the food that I'm eating, I think about the amounts I'm eating, and I roughly try to get 4 to 6 meals in. And when I say meals, I mean like 3 hard meals, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then there'll be like 2 to 3 snacks, so 5 to 6 meals, where it's mostly protein packed. So that's what I've been doing for the last 3 weeks. Is I've been tracking my calories. And the amount of calories I've been eating is about 2,100 to 2,600 calories. And I really prefer this earlier on in my prep. I prefer a 40-30-30 split. In the beginning, 40-30-30 is carbs, 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fat. and that adds up to 100%, obviously, right? And then as the time goes on, the percentage that I'm pulling from my carbs becomes lower, and then the amount of protein goes up and the amount of fat goes up. And then as I get really deep into the cut, then the fat also drops off too, and the protein just stays high. And I cut off around 250 to 300 grams of carbs at the end of my prep. There's been plenty of studies out there show that, you know, after a certain amount, even in a deficit, you just waste protein. There's not much protein sparing that goes on during a certain point in your cut. So that's the gist of the split that I use when I'm getting ready for my prep. I'll start out with higher carbs because if there's more energy available, I want to be able to maintain as much muscle mass, maintain performance in the gym. And then as I'm trying to really just go full-blown, blowing off my body fat, I take away most of my carbs and I funnel it more towards protein and fats. And then towards the very end, I even lower the fats and the protein is just really high. And I want to stress this. You don't want to go through that for too long. Some people get addicted to the look of what it looks like to be on the stage, being that lean. I would not recommend going months doing that. It's really just to get you ready for the stage. Then you have the reverse diet, you know, and I'll talk about that, you know, when we get to that, when we come to that road, when we get to that point in my prep. But that's week 1. So week 2 was half marathon training. So me and Nicole have been prepping for our half marathon for not very long. Again, I wouldn't recommend doing what me and Nicole did. The beginning of this year, when we were getting our vision board together, every year me and Nicole, we come together and we pull together a vision board, you know, basically long-term goals for the year, for 2024, whatever year it is. You know, for in the case of 2024, our goals was, at least for fitness, was we want to do a half marathon. I want to do a men's physique and classic physique bodybuilding show, and I actually want to get my pro card. A couple other things I wanted to accomplish fitness-wise, but those are like the main ones. So half marathon already done, not even done with the first quarter this year, so yay us. But I want to talk to you guys about that week, the training that went into prepping for the half marathon. So every week, more or less, we trained anywhere between 2 to 3 times a week, running wise, and one day was easy and one day was hard, and that's how we tried to go on and off about it. One day we'd run about 3 miles, another day we'd do 6 miles, and then the week of, we planned to do a 10-mile run because my mom, who is an actual runner, me and Nicole, I wouldn't really call us runners. It's not something that's really a part of our daily training. Now it is, because we're trying to keep up with what we got from the half marathon. But previous to this, I would never have called us runners. But my mom, as I was saying, she was like, have you guys even done 10 miles before? And we were like, no. So she urged us to try to run 10 miles before we even, you know, actually did the half marathon, because if we can't do 10 miles, then we're definitely not gonna do 13 miles, right? So we did 10 miles, I believe Tuesday, on the week of the half marathon, and that gave us plenty of time to still get ready for the half marathon. It was a couple days out, so we could recover from that, yada yada. And we went decently slow. I took Nicole's pace, which isn't much slower than my own, honestly, if I'm being completely transparent. So I knew that if I did it with her, I wouldn't be dead beat afterwards. I would be ready to go a couple of days later. But training-wise, not just for the half marathon, but I'm also obviously, this whole series is about my bodybuilding prep, right? I had to change some things up. I couldn't train to the level that I normally would for my bodybuilding show, so and trying to get my pro card, but still have to train and train hard nonetheless. So what I did to kind of manage fatigue and make sure I was recovering and funneling most of my energy towards hi baby boys, my dog's kicking me right now. He's laying behind me. He's a daddy's boy. What I did to manage fatigue and stress and make sure I'm recovering and have all my energy go towards running for that week is that I just reduced volume. The intensity was still there for all my lifts except volume. Volume I reduced significantly, especially for leg day. Leg day, I basically cut it in half. I only did, I think, 3 exercises. I did a quad movement, I did a hamstring movement, and then I did a glute movement. And the 4th exercise, I just did calves, and I did some kettlebell tibialis raises. So basically, it's just something to prehab my tendons and my muscles in my shins by my calves, so that I don't experience any shin splints, essentially. So that's what I did. And I did that to manage fatigue. Leg day was not hard at all, and I just did steady state cardio in between the days. I wasn't running, just to get my legs moving, get some blood flow in there, but nothing crazy. So my total time running for the half marathon was 2 hours and 18 minutes. Nothing to brag about. This isn't me gloating. If I was gloating, I'm sure a lot of runners out there who watch this video are going to laugh at me if I was ever trying to brag for that mile time. That's pretty decently slow, but not bad. It wasn't like it was a terrible metric. Halfway through, really what killed me is I think I didn't pace myself. I'm also a bigger person than I was back in the day. I'm 200 and I was running this at 210 pounds. If I was truly prepping for this intelligently, I probably should have been around 190 pounds or 195 pounds, or at least even better yet, just 200 pounds. 200 pounds or below would have been significantly easier on my body. But just going through the running, going through long bouts of running like this is hard on my body. I mean, the experience was grueling. My heart rate was fine. I kept a good pace. My heart rate wasn't ridiculously high, but it was my muscles really that was bothering me the most. So I even bought good shoes for this. I got a pair of nice Adidas running shoes. And they're perfect for me, cushiony, not too heavy. They form to the way that my running pattern. I favor an outside, a heel toe, but as I'm heel toe, I'm favoring the outer portion of my foot down to my ball, and then it smooths out by the toe so I can push off nicely and smoothly and swiftly. But even with that, by like mile 8 or I think 9, my feet started killing me, and like it was painful. Around that same time, around that same mileage, I also experienced some lat pain. My lats are starting to seize up because as you're running, your lats are also engaging too. Not a lot, but like if you're doing this for like almost 3 hours, this starts to wear down on your scapula, any muscles around your scapula. So I started getting this intense pain in my lat, and I literally had to like hold my arm up for a little bit as I was running. It went away after a little bit, but it was rough. And my hips, my right side of my hips started to bother me too. So for those of you that are muscle bound guys that want to get to running, I recommend losing some weight. I'd lose some body fat. I would try not to lose too much muscle. I never would advocate for losing muscle. But if you're a really big guy, like you're, my height, which is 6 foot, and you're like bigger than me muscle wise, and you're 220, 230 or more, I would definitely advocate to lose some muscle if you're trying to get into running. And normally I would never advocate for losing muscle unless you're that heavy muscular wise. My halfway mark was 9:53. That was the pace I had. So I had a decent pace at that point. I would love to have been at 9 minutes, but even so, that was still too fast because as time went on, my mileage got slower. I stopped. That was after the halfway mark. That was when I started stopping. I didn't stop until after the halfway mark. I think it was around mile 8 where I officially stopped and took I didn't stop, I walked, and I took a couple of seconds to recuperate. I'm sure there's some runners out there that probably would have advocated for me not to not stop running, to just do a slow jog, but just the pain, guys, it's bad. So again, prep more than us. Don't wait 3 weeks out. I'd try to do 2 months or at least 2 months in advance to get ready for these type of things. But I ran, I believe, a 10:34. And my wife was just 2 minutes behind me. She was very close pace to me, and she killed it. And the last thing I'll talk to you guys is about the food. So the macro percentage that I kept for the week 2, because I had to change some things up for my calories, was, and this is a rough estimate, it's kind of hard when you had to eat that much food in a matter of just a couple of days span. But 55, 25, 20. So 55% went to carbs, 25% went to protein, 20% went to fat. And some days the proteins and fats may have flopped as I got closer to the running day. I flip-flopped those, so I don't need as much protein. If you're going to be eating that much food, your body spares muscle very well. And when you have a lot of calories in your system, so I flip-flop those two. And I ate approximately 2,800 to 3,500 calories, which isn't a lot. That isn't a lot. And the reason why, and I could have eaten more, but again, like I said, the reason why that isn't a lot is because of I'm in the middle of the bodybuilding prep. I didn't want to eat so much and then have even a little bit of excess, which would go towards me storing it as body fat. And again, as a guy, that's my main focus, was try to get my pro card this year. I didn't want any of that to go towards fat gain. So I just kept a modest number of calories. 3,500 was still a decent amount. Yes, and then actually this isn't my notes, but I believe the total amount of active calories that I burnt was approximately anywhere between 2,200 to like 2,500 plus calories. And I don't have a Fitbit watch, I don't have a Garmin watch, I don't have any of that, I don't have an Apple Watch, but that's just a rough estimate with a friend of mine. His name is Nephi, and he had one of those fancy watches that tracks his calories. And he's an older guy, and he's like in his late 50s. And he said that his watch approximated about 2,000 calories. And if he's in his late 50s and I'm a young guy in his late 20s that's healthy, good testosterone levels, and a lot of muscle mass, I'm going to go ahead and approximate that mine was at least 500 calories more than his, if not more. So I burnt actively probably around 25, maybe even closer to 3,000 calories, active calories. And then there's basal, which my basal is about 1,600 calories. So it was about over 4,000, well over 4,000 calories that I needed to consume if I wanted just to maintain weight that day. So after the run, I had a triple stack of sweet potato pancakes. I had eggs Benedict with hash, and I ate Nicole's eggs too. Had more food, and they had bananas and bars after the race, and a pizza. And it's just, I wish you could eat like that every day, but you can't. So that is week 2, guys.